think about GIS data, you normally think of things like parcels, streets, trees, or boundaries. But more and more organizations are taking their GIS inside. From space utilization to wayfinding, indoor GIS is impacting facility management and mapping.
To tell us more about the present and future of indoor GIS, we are joined today by Alistair McDougall. He is a product specialist for Indoor GIS at Esri Canada, and he is our resident expert of all things ArcGIS Indoors. Alistair, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We're really excited to have you here, and we're really excited to talk about indoor GIS because it seems that more and more people are talking about it. So why don't we just start at the beginning and kind of give some context? I'm sure a lot of people know that ArcGIS Indoors is a product, but don't know a lot about it. So tell us more about what ArcGIS Indoors is and what are its key benefits.
Sure. So, you guys on the show talk a lot about, different types of maps, different use cases for GIS. I think it's funny because we've mapped the surface of Mars, the moon, the ocean floor, yet for whatever reason, we haven't got around to mapping much of the environment where we tend to spend the majority of our time, which is, of course, the interior of buildings. So I guess in the most basic terms, ArcGIS Indoors allows you to create indoor maps. And indoor maps, like any other map, help us situate ourselves in our environment and locate things that are important to us, right? Like that could be people, that could be, real time, people in real time. So where are Mark and Maggie right now? Or it could be, where are there assigned office location? It could be places like any kind of room, a meeting room in an unfamiliar office, or it could be any kind of thing. Like it could be any sort of asset or data point that's located in the indoors. So really, anytime we're in an unfamiliar indoor environment, then indoor maps could be beneficial to us. A couple specific examples, if you can imagine, we've all been there, but a patient arriving at a hospital, maybe to a clinic that they're not familiar with, they can check into a kiosk, view an indoor map, get wayfinding directions to that location. A contractor going to complete a work order or something like that at a facility that they're not familiar with, they can be provided with a mobile app that allows them to find their work location, to go and do that work without being kind of led around and handheld the whole time. You can imagine in the event of an emergency, first responders are often arriving on the scene without any great prior knowledge of the environment. So a medical emergency inside a busy convention center or something like that, the ability to hand first responders a tablet or a mobile device with an indoor map already loaded, hopefully that's going to allow them to locate that individual or that location much quicker than they would be without it. So that's kind of some examples of how indoor GIS can really benefit organizations. ArcGIS Indoors as a product, so we like to say it's a complete indoor mapping and geographic information system. So it's a system of record for capturing and storing your building data, a system for analyzing your building data and what's happening inside your facilities, and then a system of engagement to provide your users, which in this case tends to be the folks who are working or visiting your buildings, with information products that allow them to interact with this data and to do some of the use cases that I mentioned previously, such as wayfinding and to be able to search for locations and things like that. So ArcGIS Indoors is comprised of a few different components. We have a desktop component, so tools in ArcGIS Pro that allow you to create the ArcGIS Indoors data model, which is just a data model designed to hold building information. Tools that allow us to convert our floor plan data from either CAD or BIM formats, convert that into Esri geodatabase format, and then create our indoor maps, create and publish our indoor maps. We have a WebGIS component, so something that you would deploy to either ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. So that would be a web application, a configurable web application that we can build out of the box. And it also has a mobile app as well that you can download from the iOS or Google Play app stores. So those are kind of the two components of ArcGIS Indoors. You have the desktop component, and then you have the WebGIS component, and they can actually be purchased separately as well.
Great. Thanks so much, Alistair. You've given us a lot of information about ArcGIS Indoors and
How much
Indoor
time do I have?
GIS. As much time as we need. We'll learn all about it. But ArcGIS, I really agree. Like mapping the indoor space around us is so important. I feel like I can get around on the streets, but I am always lost when I step inside of a new building. They're so different and hard to navigate. So glad to see ArcGIS Indoors exists and help solve these problems and answer these questions. But maybe you could tell us a little bit more about some of the main features and capabilities of the ArcGIS Indoors product.
Sure. So I guess at its core, ArcGIS Indoors allows us to convert our floor plan data, like I mentioned, from CAD or BIM format and create what we call floor-aware maps. And that's going to make our facility data available across any device. So that's kind of the key functionality right there. So being able to do data discovery, to search for locations, to pan and zoom around the map and click on locations, and to do that in both 2D and 3D as well. ArcGIS Indoors also comes with a web application, like I mentioned. That web application can be run in sort of a desktop or interactive mode. It can also be run in a kiosk mode. So that's designed to be just displayed on a touch screen in a public place to allow members of the public to just freely use the maps and some of the other functionality that we get there. Another key feature with ArcGIS Indoors is the ability to create what we call the indoor network, which enables us to do indoor navigation or wayfinding. So to be able to generate turn-by-turn directions from a location in a building to another location in that building, or indeed a location in another building that may be part of the same sort of campus environment or site. And then I guess finally, the other feature I'd highlight would be the ability to configure a workspace booking solution for employees. So as you guys know, when you visit some of our major Esri Canada offices, we've been committed as a company to providing a hybrid working option for our employees. And so as part of that, we're looking to reduce our office footprint. So a workspace booking solution allows us to sort of do more with less square footage in our offices, enabling our employees to, rather than have a permanently booked desk that might be sitting empty 3-4 days of the week, we now have those desks available as bookable office hotels, so they can be shared amongst our staff. And then we've converted what was previously cubicle areas to more like collaboration space and co-working spaces, which is what our staff tend to require more these days. So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. When I was in Toronto a few weeks ago, I used the booking app, and it worked like a charm. So it was
Perfect.
very cool to be able to book your room and use the technology that way. So I'm really curious about how we always kind of view ArcGIS as this suite of products that all work together. So I'm curious about how ArcGIS Indoors integrates with our other ArcGIS products.
Mhm. Yeah, so I guess the first thing to understand is really that ArcGIS Indoors is deployed on either ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. So it can be like a fully software as a service with ArcGIS Online, or it can be deployed in ArcGIS Enterprise, which obviously you install on your own infrastructure, cloud or on premise. So it doesn't exist on its own as something you buy and install. It's something that it's a capability that you enable in your existing WebGIS portal. In particular, we have a really nice integration with Survey 123. So a common pattern that we see a lot and that we actually have in our Esri Canada booking tool as well is the ability to tap on a room. So, that might be a workspace like an office or a cubicle. It could be a meeting room. Launch a Survey 123 form and use that to say report an issue with that room. So I know the first time that I actually went up to Toronto and booked an office hotel there, the power bar didn't work. So I was able to bring up the ArcGIS Indoors mobile app and report that issue directly from the app there via Survey 123 form. So that kind of works for reporting issues against a room. It could also be used to do, for example, asset inspection. So I could tap on an asset like a fire extinguisher or something like that, launch a pre-configured Survey 123 form. We can pull attribute information from that indoor map. So you can pull, say, the asset ID or something like that from your fire extinguisher and pre-populate that survey form. and use that in your inspection workflow. So that's a really common one. And that works with Survey 123, but it actually works with any application that can be launched via URL scheme, be it an ArcGIS application or something else. Another common integration pattern we see is that people want to bring real-time data into their indoor maps. So that could be perhaps you're tracking assets or people, throughout a facility. So we can do that by integrating with something like ArcGIS Velocity or GeoEvent Server. So we can then ingest information from real-time sensors, do a little bit of normalization or some attribute wrangling with Velocity or GeoEvent, and then display that data on an indoor map. So yeah, those are some examples of integrating with some of our other products.
Great. Yeah. ArcGIS Indoors really seems to sort of extend the GIS that we have with our traditional software and bring it indoors, which is really great to hear about. And I know you've sort of touched on little examples as you've been telling us about the products, but are there any sort of notable use cases or success stories of organizations that have implemented ArcGIS Indoors that you can share with us?
Sure. Well, I'll start with our most recent one here in Canada. So, Yukon University, their main campus based in Whitehorse, but they do have campuses throughout the territory. So, they have implemented ArcGIS Indoors and have just rolled it out at the start of their spring semester. So, their first day of classes, they're back in last month in May. So they provided mapping kiosks throughout the campus, so students or staff, of course, on their first day of work or first day of school could use the indoor mapping kiosk to find the location of their classes, the location of student services, and other points of interest throughout the campus. So that was a really good one to see because they're a small university, so it was just nice to see how you don't need to be some sort of massive organization with a huge GIS team. They really just have one crack GIS person who was able to configure this on their own. So yeah, Yukon University, great job up there in Whitehorse. Another example, kind of on the other end of the spectrum, but remaining in the education sector, is an international case of ETH Zurich. So in Switzerland, they're one of the premier sort of STEM universities in the world, really. So they have a whole, since 2021, smart campus kind of digital twin initiative with a real focus on accessibility. So ArcGIS Indoors and ArcGIS IPS, which is our indoor positioning system. So they've rolled out both of those across some of their 58 building, spread over 2 campuses, some 400 odd square footage. So they've employed the software to provide an accessible wayfinding solution. So they've done some really interesting things around kind of barrier-free wayfinding, also with an emphasis on color schemes and things like that for people with neurodivergent conditions, ADHD and that kind of thing. So that was really cool to see as well, like a huge world-renowned institution using the software.
Wow, that's incredible. And it seems the possibilities are endless with different types of organizations being able to utilize Indoors GIS. So that's really exciting. But I'm sure you have some visions in your head of where this is all going. So why don't you share where you think this is all heading? What future developments do you see for ArcGIS Indoors and just Indoors GIS in general?
Yeah, so it's a timely you should ask that because we have our sort of June releases, ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Enterprise 11.3. We've of course got the user conference coming up next month. So there's a lot of new kind of exciting stuff that's both going to be released this summer and also some things that will be announced that'll be kind of released over the next year or so. So I guess starting in kind of a micro sense. So earlier this year, we released an application called Floor Plan Editor. So this is a web application, which was previously only for ArcGIS Enterprise, which allowed you to edit your ArcGIS Indoors data in a web browser. So as of the June release for ArcGIS Online, which is coming later this month, the Floor Plan Editor app will be now available in ArcGIS Online as well. And that's the Floor Plan Editor and the fact that it's now available in ArcGIS Online, it's really about removing barriers to indoor GIS adoption, removing the dependency on tools like ArcGIS Pro, because in a lot of cases, the folks who are maintaining and creating this facility data, they're not necessarily situated in the GIS team, right? They might be facility people. They use GIS as a small portion of their work, as another kind of tool in their tool belt, but they're not necessarily the kind of people that have maybe been trained for something like ArcGIS Pro, as we all know, is a fully featured application with a million different buttons that do a million different things. So Floor Plan Editor gives them a really focused web application that they can use to edit and maintain ArcGIS Indoor data. So that being available in ArcGIS Online and now having that fully as software as a service, a really exciting enhancement that we'll see later this summer. A couple other things that are a little bit further down the road, but are currently in active research and development right now, what we call progressive navigation in the Indoors mobile application. So the Indoors mobile is going through a rewrite right now. So we're going to see, I'm not sure if it's available in a public early adopter yet, but it's sort of already available in an internal early adopter. But something we're going to see in the next generation of the mobile app is progressive navigation. So currently, when you are doing wayfinding in ArcGIS Indoors, you get your turn-by-turn directions, but you have to kind of manually progress them as you're moving throughout the building. But now with the next generation application, those wayfinding directions will automatically read for you as you move through the facility if you're in an environment that has indoor positioning enabled. So the experience will be much more akin to what people are used to with a GPS as you're driving in your car or something like that. There's no need to manually say, okay, I'm here now. It's just going to read those directions for you as you walk around. So that's really exciting. And I guess the final one that is going to be really, really cool, and again, is kind of around removing barriers to adoption for the software, is the ability to take a point cloud generated through a LiDAR scan and directly convert that into an ArcGIS Indoors floor plan. So right now we need CAD or BIM data. We convert that data and we build our floorware maps that way. But soon you'll be able to take a raw point cloud that you can create. You've probably seen, LiDAR can now be in handheld, so it's becoming like much more affordable itself in the hardware. So people will be able to take a handheld LiDAR, walk around the building, produce a point cloud, and then immediately create an ArcGIS Indoors map with that in ArcGIS Pro. So that's going to be really great for organizations that don't necessarily have those CAD and BIM floor plans or even have a new building that they're looking to map or renovation to an existing building. So that's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. A lot of really exciting things coming in the world of indoor GIS. Thanks for sharing those with us. So we always want to wrap it up with 3 things for everyone to remember, because we've talked about a lot today. So if you could just remind the audience or just let us know, what are the 3 main takeaways that we should remember about indoor GIS?
Sure. So first off, I'd just say, remember, Indoor GIS, it's a multi-purpose mapping system. So it's not just for visitor kiosks. It's not just for facility management and asset management. It's not just for, wayfinding or indoor positioning. So we can use the software in a multitude of different ways in different parts of the organization. And that's really where you see, that return on investment in the software as well. When you're kind of taking those floor plans, those indoor maps, and you're using them for a variety of different purposes. So think of it less as a kind of point solution to just do some particular business case, and think about it more as a platform that we can reuse. Second, I'd say, Indoor GIS, it's an open interoperable system. So in our buildings, we have all kinds of different systems, right? We have building automation systems and asset management systems and integrated workspace management systems, indoor GIS. So all these systems need to be able to talk to each other. They can't exist in a silo, or else they're not going to serve the greater purpose, right? And indoor GIS can really act as that kind of central hub for all these various systems to be brought together and, of course, displayed on a map and allow users to kind of get that complete picture of what's going on within their facility. So remember, indoor GIS is an interoperable system. And the final takeaway, this one's a little bit kind of technical and I'm probably ending on a slightly boring note, but I have to talk about licensing. So when ArcGIS Indoors was originally released, the licensing model was done on or the pricing was based on the square footage of the area that you wanted to map. You also required a dedicated ArcGIS Enterprise instance to host your ArcGIS Indoors deployment. So in late 2022, 2023, that has changed. So it's now a flat subscription fee for the entire area you want to map. And as I mentioned before, it's a capability you enable in your existing WebGIS, be it ArcGIS Enterprise or ArcGIS Online. So if you've had a look at ArcGIS Indoors when it first came out, I would encourage you, if you thought maybe then the licensing model didn't suit your needs, please revisit it and come talk to us, and we'll talk about the new licensing model, and hopefully it's more fit for your purposes.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. Even the licensing stuff, everybody needs to know, and it's a huge change. So I'm glad to hear it. Thank you for joining us today on Spatial Report. That was Alistair McDougall. He is the product specialist for Indoor GIS at Esri Canada, and he joined us today from Halifax, Nova Scotia.